inch front mount mower and cab. We also have a tow behind gas powered top dresser and the 2019 Community Development Block Grant, Owner Occupied Housing Rehabilitation Grant, and award that contract.
Mr. Mayor, did you say you were gonna remove?
We are removing
Yep,
the
staff.
60-inch front mount mower and cab per the request of the staff. I think that they want to redo something with that, something.
Yep, just wanna
Okay.
make sure we're clear on this one.
Yes.
I thought we could approve the consent agenda with the mentioned change. of
Change.
dropping the mower.
Second?
There's a motion and a second. If there's no other discussion, we'll go ahead and vote, please.
Dirks?
Yes.
Seaman?
Yes.
Haley?
Yes.
Fleshner?
Yes.
Base?
Yes.
Cots?
Yes.
Motion is approved.
Thank you. If there's anybody here with regards to the vicious dog, that has been removed from the hearing, or from the meeting tonight, so everybody else is here for that. Otherwise, we will move to the oral requests and communications from the audience for items not on the agenda. If not, we will move to ordinances, and the first item this evening is the Carroll County Law Enforcement Center, ordinance to amend parking on Main Street, the second reading. And Mike, please.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Carroll County is in the process of developing their new law enforcement center adjacent to the Carroll County Courthouse. At the August 12th meeting, the City Council approved modifications to the downtown streetscape with certain conditions and approved a resolution, approving a record of resolutions related to the city complex beautification agreement between Carroll County and the City of Carroll. Additionally, at that meeting, the council approved the first reading of an ordinance to amend parking on Main Street. The second reading is being considered this evening. To accommodate two access entrances on Main Street to the new LEC, Carroll County is requesting the removal of the 4 spaces from Main Street. Attached included in the packet was an ordinance that removes angled parking from Main Street, from Fifth Street to 225 feet north of Fifth Street, and that would accomplish removal of those parking spaces. I would note that since the staff report went out on Thursday, staff did receive one written comment, and that was distributed tonight on the council table. With that, staff is recommending approval of the second reading of the ordinance to amend parking on Main Street, and be happy to answer any questions the council has this evening.
No, this is just a second reading, and if we proceed with it, since we do have some reps from the county here, I just wondered if you guys could give us an update on where you're looking at, if plans are progressing, or if anything's changed at this point.
Our plans are currently progressing forward. We're looking at basically some options on financing the project. Right now, we're located in the same place we're at right now. And all the indications, this will move forward, totally forward.
Super, thank you.
Well, this is a second reading, and we'll have another reading yet, so I would just like to encourage any members of the public to reach out to us if they have comments or thoughts on this. We had one gentleman show up at the first reading and talked about impact to his business, so if anybody else wants to get out and visit with us, we will still have one more opportunity at the next council meeting.
Well, I have to mention also, since our last meeting on the 12th, the bids were open on the 15th, is that correct? And we all know what happened with the bids, $2 million over the lowest bid, or the $2 million over the lowest bid. So to me, that has changed the situation dramatically. I would hope they would rethink where they're going with this and consider not only the taxpayers, but also the impact to the downtown. I've heard from many people since you opened the bids, and they've made compelling arguments to me about reconsidering based on the financial situation you have found yourself in.
Yeah, we met with our financial person today, and he presented a very, very attractive path forward, and we will pursue that. I anticipate, I can't say a number right now, but you'll you'll see very little movement on the dollar amount per year that we told you in the referendum. You'll see very little difference. We're talking about $1.50 a year. So, I think it looks very favorable. We're gonna continue to move forward.
And that's not saying we're not looking at some modifications also.
Right.
So with everything in place that we're looking at, there's no reason to get an idea to change the pathway.
I guess, people have talked to me, and some, I believe, voted for it, most had not, because it did not reach the 60% threshold in any of Carroll's 4 wards. You know, they're just concerned with where this is going, based on the ballot language, which said you would bond for 8.95 million for the construction, furnishing, and equipping. And Beatty's bid was for construction only, or am I wrong?
No, you said it right. The issue was for bonding for 8.9 million,
For construction
for the bond,
and,
to bond, and construct, and, but that does not say we cannot believe we can spend more money, if we can find ways of doing it. And as Rich said, we think we found a way where it's not gonna have an impact on the taxpayers any different than what we had previously said.
okay, Jean, do you think that 8.95 will end up covering the construction, furnishing, and equipping per the language in the ballot language?
At this point, yes. That we bond for 8.95.
And that will cover all 3 things mentioned in the ballot?
I'll just tell you this. We have a situation right now, the cost has went up on construction. But we have also a situation on the other hand side, the bond situation has made it we can generate more money. Okay?
This is a
Yeah, I
problem.
read about the
That's a
farm
unique situation and we're
and
gonna.
Well, yeah,
laws
and Carolyn,
inside.
to be honest with you, I think the farm has been taken off the table. We may put some cash into this, and we're still considering that.
Okay, I
we have-
appreciate your honesty.
We haven't moved forward on the cash for sure just yet. But this is a unique window where the 30-year and the 10-year are so close to each other that we can literally generate about 1.9 million by only borrowing 8.9 million. So I know that sounds funny. It's a lot like when you buy a home, you pay to get your points, so you get your interest rates changed. By going to, now this is the other side of it, if you raise your interest rate, then you have people that were going to buy bonds are more interested in giving you money to get a piece of that pie. And that's how we're looking at it
So
right
you're
now.
still,
We still won't take more
You
than
will not-
8.95.
you cannot bond for more than 8.95,
Correct.
am I correct?
We're gonna bond for 8.95. Now, we may spend 8.95 plus another 100.
Sure,
Uh,
sure,
That'll be cash outflow
Right.
from, probably, I think local option sales tax is probably where we're looking at right now.
to make up the deficit.
To see what value it has for us. We're keeping it on this hand. We may apply it over here, but we don't know that yet, because we want to see what the total rate changes
Sure.
per
Right.
$125,000 home. We want to look at that date first, and then we'll either try to buy our levy down with the cash and use that cash to keep the levy lower.
Right,
So it becomes a numbers game now. Michael, you're familiar with that?
Oh, I know I mean, listening to you, I know exactly what
Yeah, what we're looking at,
you're basically gonna pay a higher interest rate.
we're gonna pay a 5% interest rate.
Yeah, and then they're gonna give you cash up front based
Yeah.
on paying a higher
If
interest rate.
typically you get $100,000 for a $100,000 piece, you go to the higher one, they'll pay you 120, 125 for that. I know it sounds funny.
But in the end of the day, you're gonna pay more over the long term.
We will pay
debt.
more, but as we look at it, by either placing cash or driving some of the costs down, and we can't really drive any costs down once we did this, until we accept a bidder. And then we can get in there and conduct change orders. Change orders don't always have to go up, they can go down.
Yeah,
And we can
had some of
remove
the
stuff.
library project that went down.
We can remove things, that we, maybe that's what the right plan is. So,
So basically, we're looking at a lot of options.
yeah,
When to get the end results.
How many years have you, do you know how many years you were bond referendum?
20,
Pardon?
20.
20 years.
We also will have an option of buyout at year 7, I believe. I think year 7 is typically.
Are you gonna compromise the size of that facility any more?
I don't believe the size will change, the interior could. I'm not gonna say one way or another because we almost generated enough what we were short. So we could build as of the last drawings that we had, but we might back off from 40 to 32 cells. I mean,
Right, I saw
there's a
that.
lot of internal things, but I don't see anything external changing at this point.
I guess my concern, I would, thinking about this driving up here today is what was presented to the voters was one size, where we ended up going to was another size, and now we're at a third size going down. I'm looking at long-term effect. What are we planning for? Is it something that we take a step back and say, this is going the wrong direction? Do we need to rethink this? Because, like I said, and we've made this point, we've got a 50-year-old building there now. We're gonna add another building that could last another 50 years. So then you got a 100-year-old building and a 50-year-old building, and now we're trying to add on more. I don't wanna see us get stuck in a situation that you can't get out of. Don't box yourself into a corner, because it's,
I don't think we are. I think our space is still gonna be there for 50. We still have
right,
room
no, but
to hit the.
in 50 years though, the current courthouse is gonna be 100 years old.
And if we go outside and build, and we've discussed this and we've been there
Right.
before. If we go outside and build something, in 25 years, now we'll have a 75 and a 25. So where you wanna build a whole new one, I don't think anyone would think in a smaller county like Carroll would support a $40 or $50 million building. Don't see it ever flying.
Yeah, I mean, I can see the other counties where they're having issues with that now. But like I said, there's that regionalization, mental health eventually did do it. So I think it's coming. It's that other areas that are around that, somewhere along the line, where do they get included and how do you make up for that?
We just came from a statewide, countywide supervisors.
Yeah,
Run it by the surrounding counties, the ones that were there, with one that was not, that they've already told us no ones. No interest, just none, and they're all
Right.
considering doing something. It's like,
so all the other
Sure,
surrounding
yeah,
counties are
sure.
thinking about doing their own sort of thing.
Yep, they all want their own.
everybody, because then it all comes back to transportation.
Sure,
Moving prisoners back
Yeah.
and forth, the safety, the cost. That's
Start
the
getting
drive,
outside
that's the
your county.
driving thing behind all this. If you don't do it on the same spot, you're just opening yourself up for nearly twice as much money in a 20 to 25-year plan, so.
did you guys have a study, what would be, what we need to look for as far as in 25, 30 years out?
Yes, we did,
For how much? Okay.
and it's basically what we're looking at,
It
which is
come up to
32 to 50.
It was 30 beds, the original
Really?
one.
Okay.
And
So
that
that's what
was,
you got
that was
12
a
down there.
20 or 25-year plan.
12 down
20-year
there now.
20-year plan.
12 or 15?
20-year plan, and it was up to 50 years, up to
Okay.
50.
It was up
Are
to
those
50.
based on population increase or trends in?
Trends in
crime rates or what?
population,
Population,
arrests,
Okay.
they're blended, a whole bunch of stuff.
Okay, Rich, I wanna ask you one thing, just to clarify. I heard you say the figure $1.50, but you didn't peg that to something, so just so people understand what you're talking about.
Okay, on a,
Raising $1.50,
on a-
what do you mean?
on a $125,000 home, I believe it was $29.42. And I believe we're going to be at 31 $1.03 or less.
Okay.
So it's
you're talking $1.50 on a
It's $1.44
$225,000
difference in a year's period, it's 12 cents a month.
And the lowest amount, we can do that by, putting in.
That's fine, I just wanted to make sure we knew
Right.
what you meant, so.
When I first heard this, I thought this is not a viable plan. After being down here this week and spending half a day with our financial people, I'd recommend you ever get a chance to meet them, hire them. They're very good at what they do.
Did you have a question back there, Jeff?
I was just gonna mention, I was at the last meeting when this discussion took place, getting back to the original parking discussion. I happened to come out that north entrance, that's the point of discussion here. Whether the jail goes there or not, those 4 cars are a huge visibility obstruction.
Construction, very.
I mean, whether the jail gets built there or it gets built to Timbuktu, those 4 spots are a problem, they just are. And I would encourage anybody that hasn't driven out of there when there's 4 cars parked there to do it. You just basically have to inch out until you can see, and then you're still partway out into the roadway. And having worked in that building for 34 years, it was a little disheartening to see that basically it's all employees and business owners parking either right next to the building or across the street when the spots on 4th Street are largely empty and there's 35, 40 spots there. It's just a 75-yard walk. So,
It does it to me, I pulled out of both the north side of that and the south side of that.
Yeah.
And even on the south side, there's still those cars parked there, it's hard. You
Yeah.
can still inch out.
even in a taller vehicle like yours
Right.
or my Jeep. Yeah.
Right.
Rich, you mentioned spending half a day with your financial advisor. What is the total amount of interest you'll be paying at the 5% at the end total after 20 years?
I can't recall. I think that's sheets, I left it home. And I wouldn't
Would you
expect it.
email me that when you
Yeah,
find
I'll
out?
take a look at it.
Yeah, thank you.
And it's we looked at 2 different scenarios, 2 different interest rates actually. We looked at a straight 5 with some 4, trying to make the numbers get us closer to what we had
Because I
told
did have
people.
some questions just on the 8.95, not knowing the percent, you said it's 5%.
Well, that's what we're looking at now.
Yes,
It's a
yes,
coupon, is what
right.
it basically is.
Right. Well,
Okay.
I think it, it was, and this is the last thing I want to say, you've heard this from me before, I thought it was smart that you, when you crafted the ballot language, that you did not put a location in that. And I know that all the renderings showed the addition to the courthouse, but if things don't play out the way you think financially, at least you've opened the door to consider a remote site. And I'll end with that. And I appreciate you guys being honest with us about your discussions and plans. Thank you.
Well, we're talking approval of the second reading of the ordinance to amend the parking on Main Street, and I would go ahead and make the motion that we approve the second reading here tonight.
I have a motion, do I have a second?
I'll second.
There's a motion and a second. If there's no further discussion, go ahead, vote please.
Seaman,
No?
Fleischner,
Yes.
Haley,
Yes.
Dirks,
Yes.
Cox,
Yes.
Base.
Yes. Motion is approved.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks for your time.
You bet, thank you. The next item is under resolutions, and it's the Interstate Power and Light Company easement request. And it is 5:35 PM, and we'll go ahead and open a public hearing. And I gotta flip this ahead, and I believe that is Randy, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Interstate Power and Light Company has requested both a permanent and a temporary easement on property owned by the city. That property is in the 400 block of North Grant Road. It's actually a small strip of property adjacent to what's now the fuel depot, property owned by the county. As this easement request is part of the larger 8-inch high-pressure gas main project that Alliant has had underway, and they did suspend it earlier in July because of utility conflicts on their proposed route. They have re-engineered their route, and actually, as of today, they're reinitiating the project. And this easement is part of their relocated route, actually from Pleasant Ridge Road, basically along Grant, to Fifth Street, the main high-pressure line that will serve the city. We did place at your table tonight 3 updated documents. One was the resolution, thanks to some close reading by one of your members. We did correct that resolution. The second one was temporary easement, which has remained unchanged from the preliminary that was distributed to you last week. The third is the permanent easement. This has changed somewhat from the one that was distributed last week. It does remove the last paragraph of the easement, which we believe gave Alliant Energy a lot of latitude for use of public property. So that's been removed. The other item that we discussed with Alliant Energy was compensation for the granting of this easement. And just as of late this afternoon, they did agree by email to $350 compensation for the easement. So with that, we believe the questions that we had originally when this information was sent to you have been pretty much answered. If you're comfortable with those, we recommend your consideration of granting this easement to actually Interstate Power and Light Company.
Are there any questions from the council? Any questions from the public? This is public. Nobody from Interstate is here? Okay. Seeing no further questions, it is 5:38 and we'll close the public hearing. And so everybody has a copy of the resolutions in front of them. Okay. I will need a motion to approve the easement across the city real estate by Interstate Power and Electric, or Interstate Power and Light Company.
I'll make a motion to approve the easement as presented.
There's a motion, second?
As presented this evening.
As presented this evening, yes.
I'll second.
There's a motion and a second. If there's no other discussion, we'll go ahead and vote.
Cots,
Yes.
Dirks.
Yes.
Haley.
Yes.
Base.
Yes.
Fleischner.
Yes.
Seaman.
Yes.
Motion is approved.
Thank you. The next item on the agenda is, we'll go to reports, and the first one is the Renzi Schweers water and sewer request, and Mike, please.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Greg Seaman, on behalf of John Renzi, Joshua Renzi, and Ashley Schweers, have requested city water and sewer for a new residence under construction just south of Journey Senior Services, the former Mallard View site, east of Grant Road or County Mahogany Avenue. Currently, the property is located outside the city of Carroll. The request provides 2 different options for the council's consideration tonight. First would be to allow Renzi Schweers property to connect to the adjacent water and sewer lines and not annex into the city of Carroll, and that the existing service lines would remain private. The second option would be that the Renzi Schweers property would annex into the city of Carroll, connect to the adjacent water and sewer lines, and the city would take ownership and maintenance responsibility of those existing service lines. So with way of background, the city received a request from West Central Iowa Rural Water Association in April for water service to this property. This property is within our potential growth area and is within our 2-mile annexation area. And staff began discussions with West Central Iowa Rural Water Association about a possible agreement on how the properties would be served within the 2-mile, not just this property, but like all the properties. How would we serve them, and if in the future those properties would be annexed, how would West Central Iowa Rural Water be compensated for disconnecting those customers. City staff has drafted an agreement in cooperation with West Central Iowa Rural Water Association, and they are currently reviewing that agreement. During the interim now, John Renzi has contacted the city, is now requesting both water and sanitary sewer service from the city of Carroll. I would note that West Central Iowa Rural Water Association does have water service available just west of this property on the west side of the road. Historically, the city of Carroll has required properties when they want water and sewer to annex within the city of Carroll. The availability of water sewer service is one benefit of being a resident of the city of Carroll. Once a property has those utilities extended to them, they do lose some incentive to ever annex into the city of Carroll. The city of Carroll has historically received and continues to receive requests for service outside the city of Carroll. In fact, in the past year, we've received at least 3, and I know of, requests for water and sewer service for properties outside the city of Carroll, and specifically requesting that they not have to annex into the city of Carroll. And obviously, we have resisted those. As way of background, the city of Carroll does provide water and sewer service to the Journey Senior Services site. Back in the late 1970s, Carroll County developed the Malibu View site. Carroll County built both a private water and sanitary sewer service to the property that extends through the Renzi Schreers property to Mallard View. The city permitted this extension and has done so for other governmental units. We currently have agreements in place for this for Carroll County Solid Waste, this Journey Senior Services, which was developed by the county, and then additionally to Swan Lake. Since these services were extended, they do get to go with the property. So that's why now a private property owner, Journey Senior Services, has the availability of water and sewer to their property. Finally, related to the current service lines that service Journey Senior Services, the city has no plans on how those were installed. We did not inspect those as they were installed. And really, we don't know what condition those utility services are in. When the site was sold to Journey Senior Services, the responsibility and care of those transferred from Carroll County to Journey Senior Services. If the city were to accept ownership, staff would recommend first that we conduct testing of them to understand what potential maintenance they would need in the future. So with that, staff is just recommending that the council discuss this and and consider the request from Renzi and Swears for city water and service to the property and construction. With that, I'd be happy to answer any questions the council has.
The middle school, where are they getting, what is their situation for water?
I would defer to
No.
Randy.
Mhm. Is that city, that's
City
obviously
water.
city water.
Yep. that's
But
right.
they're in the city limits.
Are they?
Yes.
Okay, that would be, okay.
Do they have a separate line going out there, or are they off of this one?
They have a separate line. They come off of 30th Street,
Okay.
south, for both sewer and water.
'Cause I know there was a couple of years ago that we had a request there on the east side of town. There were 2 individuals that wanted, and the one did not want to didn't want to get annexed at that time. One would have, but that individual had farm animals and didn't want to have that concern in town. In my discussion with that household afterwards, once they got rid of their farm animals, they were okay with being annexed into town. So I think, and if there's going to be that development up on that northeast corner, I think we're gonna end up coming all the way around there anyway, probably bringing it in anyway. So, great.
Well, I'm happy, as is John, to answer any questions anybody has about the project. This has taken much longer
Yeah.
than what we ever thought it would, because we've been working with Mike
Sure.
for several months, and good cooperation. And the problem is that the board for West Central Rural Water can't seem to act soon enough to, make a decision on this.
Sure.
So John's daughter Ashley and her husband Tony Sweeters have this house under construction. It's ready for water. Now, we had a meeting with Mike last week, had a great talk about this. So, our suggestion is, look, he needs water, we can't get it from rural water, can we get it from the city? We will be willing to assume the responsibility for the private, that remain a private line, and that we'll fix it if it needs repair. Now, on top of that, so that it's not an issue, we're willing to sign I call it a pre-annexation agreement. I didn't want to get to the annexation issue tonight, because the water's needed now. The sewer could wait a while, but the water's needed now, so the house construction can be completed. But the annexation is fine with the Renzies and Ashley and her husband. Now, that land presently, just to clear up any question about that land presently is owned by John, his daughter Ashley, and his son Joshua. Within 30 days, the area that constitutes the house acreage will be transferred to Ashley and her husband Tony. So, certainly willing to, the annexation is not a problem, and we're willing to sign an agreement that we will waive any objection to annexation. Of course, there are details to be ironed out, but the annexation is not an issue.
Randy, so the concern with the pipe, whose pipe is it? Is it still the city's?
No, it never was.
Never was.
It was built by Board of Supervisors at the time, in the late 70s, and to serve the county home. And that transferred to the Journey Services Group, and that land remained private and privately owned by the Journey Services Group.
So are they looking to tap into that line? Does Journey say yea or nay?
I think they had discussions with Journey, and they're okay with it. Actually, your city code prohibits it. That's why this is a discussion. So.
That's why I would.
Yeah, the city code addresses.
Because that's a private line, it's not.
In two ways.
Yeah.
One, it's outside the corporate limits.
Yeah.
The other is, if a connection like this would be a party line, a joint use line, which is not permitted in the city code without specific permission. So those are the issues that surround this request, and they are city code issues.
Is there a way to acquire that so that it becomes a city line?
I think they would be willing to give it to you.
Yeah.
I know they would, actually, they'd like it.
That's where you
They'd
want
like
to go.
full responsibility of fixing it.
But this line is
Yeah.
40 years old.
If you want
Yeah.
to take it over, that is fine, but you don't have to, because we made it, Journey's okay with what we're doing. And Randy is 100% correct in his description of the whole legality of the thing. We cannot hook onto it without permission from this council, and we're here asking for that tonight, as simple as that. Now, the
Right.
annexation issue, I think that working out the details of that will take longer, but we're all on board if that's what you want to do. Now, but we have one condition: if you annex us, you take over that line too.
So Greg did mention that, that rural water hasn't been responsive to hooking up. I just want to clarify, is it that they've not been responsive to hooking up, or they've not been responsive to working with us on what happens in the future if we take that over in ownership?
What I would say is rural water, I've talked with them a few times, it's in the cities, it's kind of a chicken and egg type thing. Right now, it's in the city's ball. We're in a review period where the city has said right now, no, we may serve. And, the city has the option for any property adjoining to the city, say, no, we're gonna provide water service to that property. And so that's the period of time we're in. Rural water doesn't have an option to provide service while we're in that period of time. That is actually coming up to expire sometime like mid-September.
If I remember, was it the delay that we had back in April? Was basically because we were trying to figure out that if we had rural water hookup, if we did annex in the future, how that transfer of property.
Exactly, and I've had really good conversations, and I think at the end of the day, after we talked about it, they get where we're at. You know, at the end of the day, rural water and the city of Carroll have a goal that's to provide safe, clean drinking. Be it the city or being rural water, it's just kind of a fundamental right type thing. And I think what we're talking about here is, I've been party, and through my work, to really bad situations where some rural water, not this association, have taken advantage of the community when they've annexed and had to buy out properties. And knowing that this is an area, may want to annex, but this is within our comprehensive plan, a growth area for the city. How do we have an agreement where everyone's happy and we know how to address these issues up front? And I think rural water understands that, and you know, but unfortunately, I get where Mr. Renzi is at right now, where this period of time, the city has the control to say if we're gonna serve it or not. And we said we're considering it, so rural water can't provide the service right now.
But he needs water, finishes construction.
Well, like I said, I just want to clarify that it wasn't, they weren't able
Yeah.
to get water to them, it was because
We're still
we're
working
trying
on
to work
the
through the details
specifics.
of potential future.
Mike, you're 100% correct. I think what's holding the thing up is the city's agreement, not just for this location, but for multiple service areas in the community.
I mean, that's where they are, that's so close. I mean, personally, I would rather see us annex it and keep it, because it's so close. They really are getting close to where we are going to be down the road. That's how I guess where I would be.
Are you not having any animals out there?
No, I'm not, she might want some chickens or horses out there, which I'm still just in the 2 mile zone now, it's not an issue, but that's something that I'd wanna talk about. No, farm it, not pigs or cows, no.
We don't allow chickens in town though, right?
I don't know.
No, we don't, and that's been one, I mean, certainly it'd be a discussion for council as we look at if an annexation would occur. I've seen a lot of other communities where if you have a certain number of acres, 10, 15 acres, you're allowed to have certain animals in a certain zoning district that would allow that to occur. I think the main goal is, we wanna make sure people have sufficient land to care properly for, like a horse. But that's a council decision and it's a council take.
She's not gonna just own the acreage, she's gonna own that whole 80 acres, the west 80, across from the middle school.
And there wouldn't be anything to think that would be developed anytime soon. I mean, she'd have to sell it out.
Well, you'd have to talk to the owners.
Yes.
So to answer the question, it would be unlikely.
Right.
Well, I've owned everything east of the Carlson addition for 10, 15 years and nothing's happened there,
No.
and that's annexed in.
Greg, you didn't mention this, but on the second page of our memo, it mentions, first paragraph, second sentence, that these lines already run through the Renzi property,
Right.
right? And they're running
Yes.
north and
Yeah.
south,
Well,
is that?
it runs north and south approximately 150 to, if you're standing on the edge of the, if you're standing on the edge of Grant, the extension of Grant Road, okay? And you were standing on the edge of the pavement, and you went out like 150 to 200 foot, where that line, and looking at it another way, where that line would come right into the Journey building, that's where that line is.
The sewer.
The sewer, and I don't know about the water.
Water's in the ditch.
Water's in the ditch, okay. And we, when John, I don't know, this occurred more than a year ago, we had a discussion about the fact that he wanted to do some work on terraces out there. But we discovered that these lines exist, and there's no easement for them. You know, I don't know how that was done, it was just done.
Yeah.
You know? And I understand your concern about the condition of the lines, And that's why we're offering, let us look at it, because we need the water, and we worked with the city on the city's
6 inch
arrangement with rural water, which is really what's holding this up. And no fault of the cities, rural water just hasn't moved that fast on the issue. But, you know, just to solve all problems, you figure out whether you want to annex it. If you do, we're on board.
So, do we have a legal issue where if we do as proposed, say, yeah, it's okay, go ahead, hook onto the water line, that then we cannot annex after that?
No, you don't create an issue in that regard, but it potentially becomes more difficult. I mean, they wouldn't have, I mean, they have water and sewer. So the next question is, what other services do they want from the city that they can't take advantage of today, that they want? And that's a big one, is water and sewer. I mean, typically, cities don't provide that outside the jurisdiction as an incentive to annex.
Oh, yeah, I have one more thing to say about that. That subject was discussed with Mike, and like, how is this going to work as a practical matter, operationally? Now, the city, like my house, your house, provides water, sewer, and garbage pickup, okay? The garbage pickup would not be provided, but the Ashley and Tony would get a bill for their water and sewer service, but not at the same rate that you and I pay for water and sewer service. We had a discussion with Mike, and I don't know it's never been decided, but Mike made the comment that, you know, looks where this is going, it's probably 150% of what you and I presently pay for that same service, and that would be acceptable. That's not a problem.
Probably put you more in line with rural water rates then, I guess.
I don't know that. Where would that be, John?
I don't know.
Don't know.
But it gets closer anyway.
But but just as an inducement, Ashley and Tony would not be paying the same rent that you and I pay. It would be a much higher rate, and that's okay.
And that's assuming that the council, I mean, we'd have to create a rural water rate. I mean, we were talking hypotheticals during that
Sure.
conversation.
And there was no commitment from you. We were just having an open discussion about that the rate would be higher. And I think you made the statement, around 150% higher or something like that. That decision has to be made though. And there's no commitment from anybody on that, other than you bill us, we'll pay. You know,
What's the ruling on the rural water right now? Like, is that available, or did you guys ever make a ruling if I can get the rural water, if this doesn't work, or?
I mean, if the council tonight wanted to say, no, you can proceed with rural water, they can do that. That's a council decision.
And that's been the status quo at this point. I don't see a reason to change it at this point.
I mean, I thank you for doing the research you're doing and thinking forward and, you know, the growth and all of that, but we've always gone rural water, so let's not make this any more difficult. Just go rural water, like we have in the other people that was precedented you.
well, I think, Misty, if I can respond to that, I think the distinction is this, because I'm aware in the neighborhood I live in, people across the street and west of me, they wanted rural water and were allowed to have rural water, but when the subject of annexation came up, that was rejected by those homeowners. The difference here is, we're saying, look, annex this, make it, if that's what works for you, we'll work with you and get that done, we have no objection.
No, my objection, what's ballpark figure to run the water line out there if you needed it?
It's
Couple million?
probably under that, but it's a lot.
In the 8 years we've been on, we've waived every one that ever been presented to us. And I can't see justification to change that.
But aren't you gonna fix that water line, Mike, if it goes bad anyway, or Journey is, I suppose?
They are, not us.
Right, yeah.
So,
Mike,
We-
I'm sorry.
Go ahead then. Can we test the integrity of that line in the near future at all? Is there a way to do that? And just know what we have, and how long does that take?
Well,
And at what expense?
yeah, we'd have to get a contractor to
Okay.
equipment to do that.
So it's quite expensive just to even test and see what we have.
There would be some expense.
Sure.
And it would be a pressure test, leakage test on water, and pressure test, and manual test on sewers. And it can be done. I mean, we test new lines that same way once they're constructed. So it can be done. But the line's 40 years old. And will it pass those tests? And if it doesn't, then there's another decision.
And I have one other question, that taking this to its extreme, let's say they wanted to irrigate with this water that we've put in there. Do we have a way to stop that?
Are you talking lawn?
Irrigate, no, I'm talking farmland out there. What stops that? That's why I'm saying, taking it to an extreme.
Expense,
What's that?
expense of the water.
Expense of water, they come in on it
Okay.
anyway.
That's fine.
You don't see any new irrigation systems pop up in Iowa for a reason, it's not allowed, I don't believe. And you wouldn't want to pay for it either, right, John?
You wouldn't pay
Use
for
the
it.
city
That's
water
why very
bill
few
to
hub
pay for
sites
your
hooked up to it.
So the whole problem is the rural water is slow in getting you water is our problem?
They can't.
They're waiting for us.
They're waiting for you.
They're waiting for us.
So
They're waiting for
there's a
the localities.
slowdown in the city reaching an agreement with rural water.
So as soon as we say no, you're gonna get rural water right away?
It's up to
They
Mike.
would be, they would be able to get rural water the next day.
Up to this point, no, I couldn't get them. You guys closed rural water down.
As of right now, we can't get rural water.
No.
Because they're in
So-
the 2-mile mark.
So we're asking the city to let us hook up to the existing private line, and if you want to, without annexing us, just to get it done. But if you want to annex, we're on board.
And would a third option be just let us hook up to rural water?
Well, that would be, just without an agreement with rural water, that would be an option. But we've discovered that line out there, that water line, is not a normal water line, it's not a 4-inch water line like most mains, it's 6 inches. So there's sufficient pressure. That was a concern.
I apologize, are you speaking of the rural water line or our water?
No, your
Our
water
water
line,
line.
your water line is 6 inches.
They got it
The
6
county's
to get
water
that
line.
Distance
Yeah,
out,
county's.
yeah.
Now, the county, excuse me, the private water
Jeremy's.
line is 6 inches, and I have to assume that the sewer line is sufficient because we know of no issues with it. Now, that doesn't mean that it meets your standards, but right now, we don't know of any problems with it, which is why we're willing to hook up if you let us with the provision that we maintain it. It's okay, because there's never been a problem with it. And if there is a problem, let's say a leak, easy fix. It's not the end of the world. Just takes money.
Yeah. But it would be Journey's money, not ours,
If you
Right.
Journey and Renzi
and
money,
renting money
Not
to
city,
fix it.
not city money.
No.
not city money,
Okay.
these repairs. Yeah.
And this is kind of unique in that the lines exist on their property.
Right.
So when Misty brought up precedent, went back to that paragraph again, and this is the most unique situation I think we've ever run across. But given
Because the lines are already
that
there.
water and sewer run through.
We're not
their
asking
property.
that a line be pushed out to us.
No.
We're saying it's there, all we want to do is hook up to it, and we're willing to be annexed.
At no
And
cost.
this is an
Is
unusual
that right?
situation.
Is
Yeah,
that-
because the other ones, rural water had to run the lines to it, or we would have had to run the lines to it. That's the difference. The line's there.
But we also have code that includes it, so
Yeah.
I would make a motion that we waive the rights and rural water hook it up.
There's a motion and a second. Any other discussion? We'll go ahead and vote.
Jerks,
Yes.
Cots,
Yes.
Seaman,
No.
Fleshner,
Yes.
Base,
Yes.
Haley,
No.
motion approved 4-2.
So what does that mean? Does that mean we hook to rural water?
Yes.
Yep.
And then you're okay with that, doing it right now?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, well, thank you.
That's done, that's over, yep.
Thanks, everybody.
Yep, thank you. The next item on the agenda is the Carroll Public Library, Carroll City Hall change order number 7, and Mike, please.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. During construction at the future City Hall site, there were a few unexpected items that were discovered that needed to be addressed. These items are detailed in staff report and include $61,622 in changes, including the replacement of stairs, work on replacing the exterior wall along Adams Street, and modifications related to the council desk due to issues with the original floor. The proposed change order number 7 also adds 20 days to the contract for completion of the City Hall portion of the project and no days for the library. Seeing that we're moving on to September 9th, I'm not really sure why we added 20 days, but we did. The completion date for the City Hall is now November 1st, 2019. The library completion date is January 24th, 2020. The original contract amount was $4,526,100. The first exchange order added $291,574. With this 7th change order, the new contract amount is $4,879,296. The budget for the Carroll Public Library, Carroll City Hall project includes planned contingency of $362,088. If the 7th change order is approved tonight, we will have a remaining $8,892 of construction contingency remaining for the project. Staff is recommending at this time the Mayor and City Council approve change order number 7 to the Carroll Public Library, Carroll City Hall project in the amount of $61,622. With that, I'd be happy to answer any questions the council has.
Hey, Mike, just a silly question. If we're gonna move in on September 9th, do we get a certificate of occupancy before we can actually move in?
Yes.
And we can get that before the projection?
The completion
Right,
date,
later.
yes. I mean, we have to have a certificate of occupancy before we move in.
Okay.
You know, there will be some work, it's probably especially on the outside, that will still be done, landscaping and flagpole needs to go up yet. But the inside, I mean, they're by the end of this week, they should be substantially done in the building itself.
There's furniture in place, and ready to go in place, and I got the chance to stop down and check it out, it's really come through nice.
We go down there.
We get photos every week.
Oh, I actually go down there and look.
I see the jackhammer in the front steps or something today.
Yes.
Yeah, they were starting to unload the furniture.
So that's not on the city's dime, but the steps originally, when they were poured, they weren't installed quite correctly, so they had to be removed and redone. That happens in construction.
You mean when they put the new steps in?
The new steps, yes.
So they're not very old steps that are coming in.
No. I went drove past it, I saw that this afternoon.
Yeah,
I used to work
But
in
it
business.
was a tripping hazard that we used.
I'm not sure, you know, being a part of the group that talked about fit and finish and flooring and the lights, just how this came out to be as beautiful as it is. And it is really a first-class facility, and we used materials that were not, how would you say, like, they weren't crazy, they weren't, but there's not marble lining this thing, it's just beautiful, though. I'm excited for us to get in there and for the people to be able to see their services. I spent some time at City Hall today and watched folks coming in and out, and how well the staff's functioning, the tight area they're in when, you know, 4 different people are having 2 different conversations in the same room, voices overlap. What a beautiful place we're gonna have for the next 40, 50, whatever years. It just really came together. Sorry, I shouldn't bust the bubble out beforehand. It's amazing how nice it is.
So you recognize we should spend.
I think we probably should, yeah. I think we're doing okay. You're getting down to the hairy edge of the project, and the dollars show it too, with $8,892 left of contingency, but.
Or did you get all that in the motion?
Yeah, you got that, Mark? There it is. How about if I cut through the crud and, I move to approve the change order number 7 to the Carroll Public Library City Hall project in the amount of $61,622.00.
Second. We have a motion and a second. If there's no other discussion, we'll go ahead and vote, please.
Base.
Yes.
Cox.
Yes.
Seaman.
Yes.
Haley.
Yes.
Fleischner.
Yes.
Dirks.
Yes.
Motion is approved.
Thank you. Seeing that there's no vicious hearing, animal hearing, we will move to committee reports and monthly activity reports. Trust everyone has read those. I have no comments this evening. However, we do have one from Councilman Dirks.
I was down in the library a while back, and I was quite amazed all the action that was going on during their summer program. And pass these around, and we'll have Rachel talk about it. If you're thinking there's not a lot of people using the library, she'll explain these numbers. It's quite amazing.
Yeah, so this last summer reading, we've kind of changed how we did a few things. So we have 4 different age brackets. So we have the rookies that are birth through 5 years old. And so our participant number was kind of down this year, but their goal is ultimately to reach 6 visits at the library. And I should backtrack here a little bit. Summer reading takes place the day after Memorial Day, so May 28th through August 10th was this last year. So that's about 11 weeks that people get to participate in summer reading. So back to the rookies, their ultimate goal is to reach 6 visits. So at a minimum, they read 10,515 books. Most of the time, their goal was to read 5 books for each visit, but a lot of them exceeded that. We even had 2 kids that signed up also for summer reading and our 1,000 books before kindergarten, and 2 of these kids completed that before the end of summer too. So they read 1,000 books each, so I think that's pretty impressive too. And then so our champions group, they're kindergarten through 4th grade, and we had 484 kids participate, and that number was a little lower than last year's numbers and previous numbers. I think our door count has been down since we've been at our temporary space, but this year, their ultimate goal is to read 25 books, and so this year we changed it so they can exceed that goal, and we saw a lot more books read, and on average, they read about 24 books each, the kids did, which is great. And then we have our All-Stars group, that's 5th through 8th grade. Again, their ultimate goal was to read 2,500 pages, and you see that they were allowed to exceed that, and actually, the best person read 16,000 pages in that group. So, yeah. And then with our Hall of Fame, it's the same setup, based on number of pages read, and their goal is to read 2,500 pages as well. And the person in that group, the best individual, read 28,000 pages. So, we have a lot being read and people exceeding goals at their summer reading. And then we also, I put in the show, we have summer shows, we had 1,573 people visit that. This last year, we had 34,831 items checked out. That's both digital and physical items checked out of the library. And then we had about 20,778 people visit the library. And then we had a total of 1,289 people participate in summer reading this last year. And our best year that we had people participate was back in 2017, when we had the library vote. We had about 1,600 people participate. So yeah, we're looking right along. Is there anything else you want me to elaborate on, Laverne?
No. When I walked in there, they had these jars, and they had pieces of paper in them, and that meant 500 pages, and that jar was full. Man, so I had to break this down for her.
How many pages did you read?
0.
All right. Any other comments about the city manager?
I just really want to take a moment to thank the public, which there's only 2 or 3 left. Staff, the council, really for the last year, moving around, particularly the school district, rec center, the fire station, really hosting these meetings. It really, I appreciate everyone's flexibility over the last year in getting us through it. School board in particular, I mean, for 2, it seems like it was old hat. I mean, you were here.
I'm still in my old chair.
You're still in your old chair. And your name is still on the wall for achievement awards, so. But really, thank everyone for being flexible the last year, appreciate it. Next meeting will be at the new council meeting, or council chambers.
If there's nothing else, I need a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
We'll go ahead and vote.